Hello, this is chapter 9, and we are covering the chapter on race and ethnicity. In reality, race and ethnicity, and my view, my professional view, by the way, it is a continuation of the culture chapter. If I haven't said this, I'm going to go ahead and say it right now. In the United States, we cannot speak about culture without speaking about race at the same time. And when we speak about race, we also speak about culture or ethnicity. You know, often people use these two concepts of race and ethnicity interchangeably. For instance, you'll go ahead and say, I'm from the, Salvadorian race. I'm from the Mexican race. My race is an American. You know, they tend to misconstrue what ethnicity is and not necessarily what race is. You know, we have a definition of race, and it's not the same as ethnicity. It's a category of people who are identified as similar because of a number of physical characteristics, right? Like nose shape, skin tone, skin color, etc., right? Ethnicity is a collection of people distinguished by others or by themselves primarily on the basis of culture, nationality, all right? So it's not the same, obviously. But then, of course, people make an issue about it, right? They say, no, I am from this, and I have the right to be called this. And it's okay. I mean, to avoid argument, we'll just go ahead and go with whatever you want to be called, whatever I want to be called, right? It's not really a big deal, right? But it's important to differentiate between the two. And so, okay, so, you know, I have this slide here, and this slide, it goes back to the culture chapter, you know, remember that slide back in chapter 2, the culture chapter, where I had this giant umbrella? Right, so yeah, I'm just making the connection here, okay, because it does relate to that chapter, you know, to the second chapter, this chapter, you know, on race and ethnicity. So it's really a continuation of the same, how do you say, universal theme, right? Okay, so then I have that slide, you know, the prejudice and discrimination slide, which has been circulating in this class for quite a while. You'll find some slides that I've used in the past, just kind of to conceptualize things. Like in this case, this slide serves a great deal. You're able to know what this discrimination is in comparison to, say, prejudice. You're able to understand the different types of discrimination, and in this case, where we fit is discrimination by race or ethnicity, and we term this action racism. And then, of course, this therefore is a very resourceful slide, which kind of covers a couple of pages, just encapsulates a couple of pages and ideas just in one slide. This is what I try to master as an instructor. Most of the times when I'm creating these slides, I try to encapsulate as much as I can in one slide. You know, because we must make it fit. It must follow, and in this case, you know, like previous chapters, I'll go ahead and say that the group chapter follows from the social structure and the socialization chapter, and I even develop slides for that. You know, like in the evolution of society slide, remember that I was able to pinpoint what chapters, in other words, what themes or topics fit into an upcoming topic, and in this case, culture and race, and in this case, culture and ethnicity most definitely would be culture. Are one that follows the other, right? And we're differentiating between the two in this case. And so furthermore, we'll go ahead and talk about how the reason why in the United States, even though we're very diverse racially, ethnically, however you want to call it, there are levels of intolerance and levels of acceptance when it comes to minorities, and ethnic minorities or racial minorities, that is. And throughout the world, you're able to see that you have a lot of you have several patterns. I like to call them stages. For example, what's stable is the assimilation stage when it comes to patterns. You know, when it comes to assimilation, we're talking about the dominant group or the mainstream absorbing the minority group. In other words, having this minority group adjust to the mainstream. Right? It's more like the ideal type to anyone that is nationalistic or patriotic of their country. They would probably think in terms of having anyone that comes to my country better be like me, better adjust or assimilate to me, to my way, to my culture, or to my way of thinking, or even to my religion and ideology. Right? That's kind of what fits best in most people's minds. You know, in my way of seeing things. But what we want to be remembered as great when it comes to America is by allowing everyone keeping or maintaining their culture. Notice that I said culture, not necessarily race. But of course, the both concepts get mixed, and people use them interchangeably, right? So okay, so the multiculturalism, dominant group that is the mainstream encourages racial and ethnic variation when successful. There is no longer a dominant group, but of course, we have to be careful when we say racial and ethnic variation. What do you mean with racial variation? I mean, ethnic variation follows the same idea of culture, but racial variation, so it's whatever you want to pick, right? It's whatever how you ever want to be identified. But just remember that we live in a country where we have a lot of racists, we have a lot of people that are prejudiced, and it's important to connect between the races than to separate, than to divide, than to categorize. So anyways, we're at this stage of assimilation, kind of heading to right. Multiculturalism anyways. And so you have the other patterns like segregation, internal colonialism, which is the what many illegal immigrants find themselves in, at that stage where they're used as menial workers, that they're kind of the very perceived as people at the very bottom of the pit, they're unwanted and so on, right? So and then you have the most extreme of all forms of rejection, which is genocide. Yeah, you have different patterns worldwide. You'll see examples like ethnic cleansing, genocide. You have these atrocious ways of getting rid of people, and I'll go ahead and be the first one to say that I'm thankful to God that we don't have that kind of system currently operating. Slavery, which was a form of stratification, was abolished already long time ago, and people have equal rights, so to speak. Not 100% equal. I mean, there's no such thing as 100% equal to no one, all right? But things are getting better than before, and I think I could go ahead and sleep at night with that. I mean, I could go ahead and live with that and sleep well, without actually feeling, without my ego or self-esteem being affected by feeling of myself lesser than a citizen. No, not at all. Okay, I'm not that kind of person. I hold no negative sentiments against no one, and I hope you don't either. Right? Life for us that we are so privileged to be in the United States was made to be enjoyed, not to suffer every day and be hateful, or just those that hate you for whatever reason. And in this case, we're talking about race or ethnicity. Just don't be trapped in another person's passion. You can go ahead and take that as a philosophy, by the way. You know how the U.S. Census does it? I mean, because the U.S. Census is at fault in my view. They have all these categories. So I searched for this slide, and I developed this slide because I used to be a census worker a long time ago. I used to work for. I worked as a enumerator for the 2000 year census, more than 10 years ago already, right? It was one of my first paid jobs. I'm not telling the truth. It wasn't one of my very first paid jobs. One of my very first paid jobs was at the college, at this same college. Yeah, like almost 20 years ago. What I'm talking about is like one of my first jobs out there in the street, where I had to go ahead and knock at doors and many times get rejected, and it's kind of tough to deal with the public. But look how over the years and the decades, look how you have one racial, which is white, one racial classification, and the rest sound or seem to be more ethnic categories. Can you see that? So that's what I'm talking about. Both race and ethnicity are used interchangeably. In this case, you have the sample of government using these two concepts interchangeably. What other best proof do you want, right? And then three of my findings, or rather the author's findings, is that number one, race is defined by perceived skin color of white or non-white. Number two, that racial superiority is only assumed to exist. And number three, the third categories of official racial classifications may over time create a sense of group membership or consciousness of kind for people within a somewhat arbitrary classification. So you have the other choice, going back to the second point that I have here. You have, what about these people that are multiracial, or it's hard to go ahead and define people by race. I mean, how can you go, what will you say to someone that has all these, that has sort of like an ethnic stew in the family where they have like everyone coming from different countries and they only met here in the United States, and part of the family was white and another part of the family was non-white. I mean, how do you deal with that? What? Okay, what is there any way you could go ahead and say, well, I'm 100% black, or I'm 100% white, or my entire background going back 4 generations ago came from Mexico? Can you surely say that? I mean, some can, but I mean, most can, but there's this, I shouldn't say small, more like larger category, not larger than most, but large category of people that find themselves in the other slot. That's what I'm trying to say there. And it's hard then to go ahead and play with these concepts without missing a couple of hundreds of thousands of people, or even millions, who knows. So, okay, so, where do immigrants come from? And most immigrants nationwide come from Mexico. And of course we have Asia, we have other continents, not countries. I'm talking about country. The majority come from Mexico. Our friendliest neighbor, by the way, when it comes to the United States. And then you see the projections, and by the year 2030, a couple of stats there for you to go ahead and investigate further. We don't have a paper that will go ahead and discuss race and ethnicity in this class. I find that one term paper, actually two, because we have the essay and social class, remember? But then one research paper is pertinent. I mean, it's prudent enough. It's good enough just to have one. I mean, why two? Why three? Why four? There's just one. So you're already writing one, and I think you're writing one of the best, which is that deals with family. The research paper, and then of course you have the essay. And let's see. Then we have the perspectives, and what would the functionalists say? And what the functionalists would talk about is assimilation or versus ethnic pluralism. Whether they'll go ahead and assimilate to the mainstream when it comes to illegal immigrants, or they'll probably maintain their culture, la raza, okay? And then you have the conflict theorists, and they see everything. And I say that, of course, in one of my slides. And the conflict theories, there's two things about conflict theory. Those that are conflict theorists are, in my view, they're basically poor or middle class people, because they either perceive this immigrant group as serving as competition to the existing poor, the rich or the almighty rich, the elite. The illegal immigrants don't threaten them at all. After all, the jobs they're taking away are menial jobs, they're poor jobs. So then who wish to, or which particular social class is affected? It's basically the poor. This movement of illegal immigration, I call it a movement rather, it's affecting those that, it's bringing competition to those that have already this low class status. It wouldn't affect basically the middle class, would not really be affected. The offspring or upcoming generations of these illegals may actually present a challenge to the existing middle class people, because they will have the right to earn an education and therefore assume middle class membership, and that may bring further competition. To the interactionists, they pretty don't investigate the same things. To the interactionists, it's all about getting along. It's all about pursuing equal status. I have four elements there that, if put in place, people would find more of a sense of equality and membership. The interactionists would be also looking at how would the culture change. The culture. Would it be more of a Latinized United States in the future due to illegal immigration, or just regular immigration, whether it is legal or not? And how can we get along? How can we go ahead and put aside borders and race, ethnicity, language, and just find ourselves as one category of people? By socializing. Remember, it's like they study socialization and meaning and so on. And so, okay, well, listen, I think this is an important chapter. I hope that you get the best out of it when you're reading it. I hope my notes are instrumental and helpful to you. I appreciate your time. I know that you do spend the time listening to my video lectures, and it is a pleasure for me to develop them and to voice my views as well, not just the transcript, which is the slide, which takes a long time to produce, the slides, but then the video lecture is a little bit something from the professor. So thank you very much. This is Professor Jag, and bye bye.